Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
And we welcome to the studio the newest superstar that has been brought to the podcast specifically to be turned heel.
That's right.
Cory Graves is here. Cory, what's the haps?
I'm a real-life heel, so I don't think there's anything necessary about turning me heel.
The work's already been done.
Yeah, I've since birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came out of the womb with a foreign object.
Yeah.
I believe.
Just ready to knock your mom out with a golf club or
That's
something.
right. It was a piece of something wrapped in athletic tape. We never quite established what it was, but
foreign object.
It was foreign and it did damage.
Right.
I mean,
You pulled it out of your diper.
right. And the referee never saw it, so I mean,
Right.
you know.
Quick roll up. You're good.
That's it. That's all it took.
Well, welcome, dude. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm cold. I'm warm now, but this is the second blizzard in 2 weeks that I've endured. And I'm from Pittsburgh. I grew up in the cold, but I've been in Florida for the last three and a half years. So this is kind of
You just get
shock.
acclimated to Florida?
Yeah. I typically wear a lot of linen now, a lot of white pants.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Tommy Bahama.
Right.
Is big where you are.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that was actually because I know because you've moved on from wrestling, but you're now not only an NXT play-by-play guy and pre-show host, but you're doing the Raw pre-shows now, which is out of Stamford. So I would have thought that you would have at least considered, since you're up here every week, moving to Stamford full-time.
The thought has crossed my mind. Granted, this is still kind of a new gig, and things change, on an hourly basis. In
3
the
weeks
company.
in, you're just like, I bought a house, so everybody's happy with me, right?
Right. I considered it. I talked about it before I actually came up here, and last week definitely was the surefire no. After having to dig yesterday morning before I went to the studio, I spent legitimately 20 to 25 minutes knocking ice off of my vehicle, and I didn't miss that.
Yeah.
I did, however, I was surprised that I retained my snow driving skills. I fishtailed around a bend in downtown Stamford, and I handled it pretty well.
But you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I was pretty proud about that.
The hotel you're staying at doesn't have indoor parking?
No, in fact, there's some sort of seminar or conference going on to where they have the actual close parking lot completely blocked off, and they've built some sort of tent structure.
Uh-huh.
So you have to walk approximately 14 miles from your car to the hotel.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Oh.
Give or take 13 miles.
Which is perfect for February in New York.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when I pride myself on being an efficient packer.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually, I just have a carry-on with my suit for the week and my garment bag. I don't have time for a heavy coat.
Right.
I own heavy coats.
But
I'm
you're
not
not
sure where I have them in my house in Florida, but I know I own them.
So you do not bring heavy coats when you
No,
travel?
this denim jacket I'm wearing right now is the extent of my thermal protection, which is it's insufficient at best.
Completely. But
Yeah.
you're thinking, okay, we go to the hotel, to the studio, to whatever, out of here.
Exactly. I forgot about the 20-minute warm-up period inside the car.
Right.
I think I'm getting off the plane, I'm getting in a rental car, I'm going to be fine. But then, the rental car's been sitting on the lot for a day, maybe more, and it's very cold.
And it's almost easier to survive like a day of cold than 20 minutes. Like
Yeah.
when you have to have that 20 minutes of cold, or when you, like that burst, when you go outside and your body just tells you immediately you're not wearing a jacket, you idiot.
Right.
That's the worst.
As I was leaving the studio after the pre-show last night, I had forgotten the trick to flipping up your windshield wipers so they don't freeze. Well, they had frozen, and after digging through about 6 to 8 inches of snow on my car with my bare hands.
And I'm going to guess the gloves are in the jacket pocket you don't have?
The gloves. Yeah. I don't think I own gloves. I've never been a gloves guy. Even in Pittsburgh, I didn't.
Well, you don't tattoo your hands up to wear gloves.
It's a valid point.
Right?
Right. So, but yeah, I couldn't really feel the wheel for the first 5 to 7 minutes of my drive. It was probably unsafe.
Black.
Yeah. I'm missing the tip of a pinky this morning, but I'm sure we can fix that.
But this is so great about the position you're in now, because a superstar, a wrestler, a sports entertainer can't work matches if their hand is frostbitten and has to be removed.
Right.
But you could host a pre-show, just get a lapel mic, and you're good.
Right. My vocal cords are safe right now.
You can cut off the whole arm.
Yeah. I might, might look into that at some point.
Because you've got an even stronger gimmick
I need to, reinvent myself every few years. Maybe I'll just lose a limb.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of reinventing yourself, so, you were one of the guys who NXT has blown up
Yes.
so huge in the last year or so. But you were one of the initial guys that started getting this buzz around them, like right after the Wyatts came up. It was like, what's going on in NXT? There's a whole bunch of people down there that have these personalities, and they're compelling, and they're actually really, really good in the ring, and you got to start watching this thing. And I feel like Cory Graves was one of the first names that was thrown into that with the Adrian Nevilles and the Sami Zayns and all that. How close were you before you got the concussions to coming up to the main roster?
I've heard various stories. I had a lot of contact with writers, and I was constantly pitching ideas, and a few of them seemed like they'd have legs, and it seemed, I'd heard some rumors buzzing around from guys up on the road, say, hey, I heard you're coming up soon, but, I mean, if I had $1 for every time I heard that,
right,
I would be able to retire.
Right. And honestly, it probably was a situation where they're like, you know what, we're going to bring him up soon, and then you just get distracted with other stuff.
Sure.
It's not like they're lying.
That's the business is always changing, and everyone's so busy. And this thing, I don't think people realize, as much as we're on TV, as much as we're on the air, it's still a 24/7 job. Just because no one's in a ring right now, this is a huge corporation. I mean, it's a worldwide business, and there's constantly just so much going on. So, yeah, you think everyone's focus is on, okay, well, what are we going to do with Cory Graves today?
Right.
Man, whoever makes that decision is also worried about 13 other people, and then, that might be for that day, that might be what they're doing, and then they have to go worry about catching a flight and getting, I mean, we're all human.
Yeah.
Except for, I'm not sure Vince is human. Vince may not be a human.
Well, and that's kind of the way the company is run, right? He's like, well, I'm not. I work on unhuman levels. Like
Exactly.
I can work all the time at whatever age I'm at.
Right.
I don't understand
Why
why
everybody
everybody
else.
else. Yeah.
And you can't argue with him. I mean,
Right.
because he's living proof. You can do it. It can be
Right.
done. But that's why there's a lot fewer Vince McMahons in the world than there are, regular people.
Right. And do you look at Vince like? Do you sit there going like how old are you? Like 30?
I'll be 31 next few weeks.
So you're like 31.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, I'm kind of beat, man. I got to get out of here. And you look at this 70-year-old dude that's like, have you ever seen the dude tired?
No, he's like Donald Trump.
Right.
Donald Trump has never had the flu.
That's what he claims.
Claims he's never.
Yeah,
he's never had the flu.
Right.
Yeah. Vince he's a marvel, man. He's something special. I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, that guy's inspiring.
Right.
I mean, I don't care what business you're in. You should aspire to be that successful at any one thing. I mean, and that's his work ethic.
He's the best at it.
That's
you
it.
can't deny.
You can't at all.
He's outlasted. He's been more successful than on every level. He's beaten everybody he's ever within the industry. How much interaction have you had with Vince McMahon? Because I know Triple H is the guy who's kind of in charge of NXT.
Triple H is the one I deal with more often than not. I've met Vince in passing and exchanged pleasantries, but I still haven't really.
How's it
gotten too
going,
much
pal?
face time. Yeah. The first time he called me by my name, I went, "Oh my god,
he knows my name."
Yeah, it was it. Oh my god, he knows my name. But I mean, he's busy, and it's cool though because even within the company, he's got like this mystique because you never know where he's at, but he's everywhere all at once, and it's just kind of like. He's like this mythical character. But.
Right. Now, what type of vibe for you, because what type of vibe for you does Triple H have? Because Triple H, I would think that there's a lot that goes on in the company that it becomes difficult for somebody to go from superstar to, for all intents and purposes, the next mythological guy in charge, one would think. What do you see as a guy who wasn't there, during the prime of his run? Do you see him as that leader? Do you see him as...
Triple H talking about?
Triple H.
Yeah. I deal with him a lot directly, and I've never heard anyone, even the boys in locker room banter, say anything just overtly negative because he's very understanding and he takes time out of what I've never had. He's a guy you've never asked, "Hey man, do you have a minute?" And he's never said no to anybody. You know what I mean? He'll stop what he's doing to at least address your problem. He can't promise he's going to fix it, but he'll say, all right, hey, I'll look into that, or maybe we can get that fixed.
Well, at least listen to what you're saying, which is more than most bosses.
Right, and I think what's really cool is he comes from the other side of the locker room. He's one of the boys at heart. Granted, he's in a different role now. He's got to take on professional responsibilities, but he, I think, understands better than anybody what we feel like or what the talent feels like.
Yeah.
as opposed to, and not that Vince doesn't, but Vince was never a wrestler. Vince never really faced the problems or the issues that a lot of the guys do. Hunter's been through it all.
Right.
He's been run through the ringer. He's been at the bottom of the card. He's main evented.
And he's dealt with Vince McMahon,
right,
as a boss.
Exactly, and he's been around through some of the strongest personalities throughout the business, and the clique and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, he's literally been around and seen everything there is to do. So for him to relay that as a boss or in an authority role is really cool, because it makes him very relatable and approachable. And my personal favorite thing about Triple H is watching him at NXT. If he's trying to explain something to a guy, there's nothing cooler than watching him take his suit jacket off and he starts throwing punches, and next thing you know, he's like running spots and in this $1,000 suit. Yeah, and it just goes to show you his passion is still there. You can't take that. You can take the wrestler out of the ring, but you can't take the wrestling out of the guy.
He's still ready to ready to go. Let's do bumps.
Exactly. It's so funny. I mean, it'll be in the middle of a conference room, and he's like, "No, you got to do it like this," and then the jacket comes off, and he starts throwing.
But I would imagine
it's so
that
cool.
For a lot of people, that's probably the aha moment. Like, oh, this is clicking now.
It is. Well,
I understand what you're saying.
That's why
now.
he does it. I mean, he said on the Stone Cold podcast that's one of his biggest thrills is seeing the light bulb go off. And I've learned a ton from him. And getting out, even when I was still in the ring, I'd get out of the ring and come back into Gorilla, and here comes Hunter. And sometimes he wasn't happy, but he would always do a really good job of explaining himself, as opposed to just yelling at you and saying, "Oh, that sucked," or "That was bad." Right. He would say, "Listen, man, why did you do that?" And then by the end of it, you would walk away going, "Oh, well, man, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be." You know what I mean? Like, why shouldn't I do it? And that's what he appreciates and gets a thrill out of. But it's also really cool for the talent, because then you just say, "Oh man, like I'm not going to get yelled at. I'm not getting in trouble. He just wants to fix this." And then you do it, and then next thing you know, he's the first to say, "Hey man, that's what I'm talking about." How
much of the because you're describing a guy who gets off on figuring out how to make other guys get over, like young guys work, and getting people to the next level. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
How does he react to like internet whatever criticism? Does he care? Does it get to him? Is he like, if you guys could just see what actually goes on?
I'm not inside his head. Right. I only know what overtly comes out. And I would say with social media being what it is, and the internet definitely has a strong presence. I mean, we're not going to. That's as much of a part of our business now as it ever has been. The internet's huge. I think he's probably been through it enough and on such a different level than even like you and I get crap on Twitter, and it's like, God, man, that sucked. I
don't suck.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But he's probably been through so much of it that I think I'm sure he's aware of it, but I don't think you can let that sort of thing bother you.
I think I mean he did one move on his Twitter, I think right after the last NXT special, where the sub forum on Reddit that's devoted to wrestling sent him a fruit basket.
I saw that, yeah.
And he tweeted the fruit basket and said, "Thanks, guys."
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, he gets it.
Yeah, he knows it's there, and he but again, you can't please all the people all the time, but you can kind of acknowledge them and say, "Hey, this is it's a passionate fan base."
Right.
You know what I mean? The internet, whether you call them the smart marks or whatever you want to use, that's a very passionate fan base, and you can't completely neglect them. You can't always give them what they want as much as you would like to give everyone what they want all the time. There's a strong enough thing to, we're not going to totally change everything just because you didn't like it on Twitter.
Right.
But at the same point, say, hey, man, you're passionate enough that you're taking time out of your day to acknowledge it and, complain about it. Let's try to throw you a bone once in a while.
And you want a guy in charge who you feel like you can trust, in the sense that, look, I know people don't get this right now, but ride with me on this. Or we can change it if need be, but I have a vision here, and my vision is one you can trust.
Right, yeah. He knows where he's going, especially with NXT. I mean, he again, I hate to keep bringing up the Stone Cold podcast, but that was fresh in my mind. He actually addressed some of this stuff last night. NXT is his baby. He knows where he wants to take it. He knows what he wants to do with it. There's variables. Things change. Guys get hurt. New guys show up. You know what I mean? But he has a vision that he's working towards. Not everyone necessarily knows what it is. But it's going somewhere. And so it's nice to have someone that believes in us as much as there's a really strong, almost kind of a team mentality in NXT across the board. As much as everyone wants to get called up, everyone wants to be on Raw or SmackDown. That's the ultimate goal. But in NXT, from the announcers to the talent to the coaches at the Performance Center, everyone kind of has I don't want to say us versus them,
Right.
but it's kind of like we have like a chip on our shoulder, you know what I mean? And it's cool because Hunter's on our side, so we're kind of like, yeah, man, you know what I mean?
We have a representative.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's a pretty damn good representative.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a cool vibe.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. When you're over so big in NXT, I would think a while back when it was like FCW and it was just really, we're wrestling in a warehouse, this is strictly developmental, not its own brand, there was probably a lot of, I got to get to the main roster, this is... When you're over in NXT, is there a part of you that's like, I'm not on the main roster yet, but, this is cool?
I think, yes. In a short answer, yes, that definitely is there, especially now because as NXT grows as a brand, we get a lot of perks that you would get being a WWE superstar. You know what I mean? Getting to do a podcast like this. You know what I mean? Certain things that before in FCW and certainly even the inception of NXT, we were kind of the little secret. You know what I mean? We're not going to pay much attention to them. But now as the brand grows, a lot of the talent gets to experience different things. Sami Zayn just went to Abu Dhabi to do media. You know, he speaks Arabic or whatever. But that little opportunities like that, that's really cool. And just very recently, the brand is starting to grow. Grow even more. We're doing our first live event on the road next month in conjunction with the Arnold Classic in Columbus.
Are you doing stuff with that?
Am I personally?
Yeah,
I'll be there. I'll be doing some hosting or telling jokes. I'll do stand up after the show in the parking lot. I don't know. I fail miserably. But that's like the first step, and I think it's like the test run to see how we do. But I know we're doing a venue. I think it's around 1,000 seats. And rumor has it that it's sold out in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that sort of feeling amongst the locker room and just morale as a whole for NXT is huge. You know what I mean? That goes, hey, we've got this buzz, and it's not going to happen overnight. But there's no reason that, if we do start touring a little bit, it could almost be, in a weird way, almost like a cooler alternative to the main roster because you're still, it's on a smaller scale.
Right.
You do maybe get to spend a little bit more time at home, sleep in your own bed once in a while. You still get a lot of the perks of being on the road and traveling and things like that. And I think a guy like Sami Zayn is perfect for that. Just on a personal level, like I know Sammy. Sammy's a punk rock kid. Sammy wants to have fun and wrestle.
Right.
Whether it's in front of 200 people in Lakeland, Florida, or if it's in 50,000 people at WrestleMania, which the goal is still the same. He wants to be the best, and of course, if you don't want to headline WrestleMania, you don't belong here.
Right.
But
I mean, so many of the guys are also indie guys.
Right. That's what I'm
they're
saying.
used to doing this and traveling, and even like Fergal and Finn and Hideo are like these international guys, but these are guys that have been all over the world and wrestled in front of every sort of weird crowd that you can imagine.
It's incredibly awesome to do what you love and get a paycheck. Yeah. And any of us that came from the indies never really, we never really experienced that. Right. Some of us made a couple bucks here and there, could, pay for our car or our rent or whatever, but to actually know that you get a check every Monday and all you have to do is show up and do what you've been doing for, crap money for a lot longer. It's an awesome feeling.
Have you ever been in situations where you have to remind other people of that? Like,
no, absolutely.
Back up.
I've been in need of reminders of that. I mean, I found myself, sitting in the Performance Center. The Performance Center is a state-of-the-art thing. It's this amazing, living, breathing structure. I mean, you've been in it.
I've been there.
It's fantastic. But it's like anything else. You go to train every day, and you train the same way. And sometimes you feel like, oh man, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But then that's when you need the reminder. And my dad was always really good to be my reminder. I would come home and I would be so mad about something trivial. Something made me mad at train. Something didn't go my way. Or I remember the one conversation that always sticks out is Dusty Rhodes, who was our promo coach. He said something to me that it rubbed me the wrong way. And I was so mad. I called my dad and I'm like, Dad, Dusty said this. And my dad just goes, okay, calm down. Listen to what you just said to me. And I said, yeah, I just complained that Dusty Rhodes ruined my day. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, shut up. He's like,
you're getting pissed that the American dream is saying negative things about your promos.
Right, exactly. And I just went, it's just one of those, yeah, check yourself, man. Like this. Yeah. Look at where you're at. Look at what you get to do. My paycheck says WWE. That's insane.
Right.
You know what I mean? I grew up my entire life loving this business more than anything in the world, and the fact that in any capacity, that's how I support my family is like it's still kind of mind-blowing, you know?
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing, too. You were talking about the perks and how not only were you yourself in the last video game, you're in 2K15 as an NXT dude, as are some of the other guys, but, like, the NXT guys are getting action figures. You go to shows. Like, I was at the Rumble.
Right.
And there's, like, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn shirts all over the building.
I think Kevin Owens was up until, I'm not sure, I'd have to check. It was like the number 2 selling shirt on shop.com, like WWE shop.com for a long time. Like it was like back ordered.
Yeah, I don't like to ask for too much, but I had to reach out to my WWE Connect and said, dude, I need some NXT t-shirts.
There you go.
Like, but it's amazing that it's becoming this thing where you can it's its own brand.
It is. It completely is. And I was talking to someone before about this, that there's no shame in coming in and having a 3-5 5-year NXT run.
Right.
If that's it. If that's the most you ever do, you realize with the WWE Network now, the amount of eyes that get to see you perform your craft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you work on the indies, and sometimes you get a good town, and there's opportunities out there, but it's global, literally. I mean, to have the entire world be able to watch what you do, make some money along the way. You're going to get rich and never have to work again in your life. Probably not, but hey, it's a better way to spend 5 years than working the cash register at a fast food joint or something. You know what I mean? Or doing some job that you hate, digging ditches.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a way to. A lot of people are starting to look at it, just like, man, I'd rather be here for a few years than never make it.
And people are talking about it too. Like, it's been so long, I feel like, since stuff popped up on my radar that people were saying, "Did you see this show? Like, you got to see what they're doing over here." Like, and it was the last NXT special, the last Takeover show.
Our Evolution. Yep.
Yeah, that people were like, everybody was, you got to see this show. Like, they're doing, it's unbelievable stuff over here. This is what we're looking for. This is, and you just don't hear that a lot.
And it's really
it's rare in 2015, not just for wrestling or sports entertainment, but for any form of entertainment, to be able to actually get people talking. Like, you got to see this. You got to see
an organic buzz,
because there's so much stuff
right
happening everywhere that for anything to have an organic buzz that's like real, and building, not it's here and gone.
Right. I think that's part of the appeal, is that it's not shoved down everybody's throat. You know, we have an hour a week on the network, and we've been doing these specials sporadically. Mm-hmm. I personally would love to do more specials because they're fun. That's just my own personal thing. But I actually said that. I said it on the Raw pre-show. We were talking about what we could ask Triple H if we had one question. And I said, why doesn't NXT do monthly live specials? And I actually got a lot of tweets saying, no, that's too much. That'll ruin everything. Whoa. And I was like, listen, man, I'm just trying to come up with something to fill a few minutes. I didn't really think this out. I was just kind of spitballing.
I like that. How about more?
Yeah, exactly. If some is good, more must be better.
And I think that's also the thing that people forget, because there's a lot of critique between Raw and SmackDown and NXT, and there are people, especially on the internet, they're like, wow, NXT is better than WWE, blah, blah, blah. But you're talking about 1 hour of TV a week versus 5 hours of TV a week, and 1 2-hour special every 3 months or so versus a pay-per-view every month, and all this stuff. So, I mean, that's a big part of it, too.
Absolutely. The amount of content we have to produce, it's for NXT, I know our guys, we do a live special, and then the next day we have like 4 weeks of taping.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so worn out. And it's like, dude, this is Raw. This is how every week, every week the main roster does it. So yeah, there's an advantage to being able to kind of take a step back and not have to worry about it for a few weeks. Maybe that's what some of the magic of it is, but
whatever it is, it's working.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
So how do you take the news when you find out, like, you're not gonna? First of all, how did you get your concussions?
I've been wrestling for so long.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically what things were. The last one I got was at WrestleMania Access last year in New Orleans. That was the last diagnosed one that I had, and that was the one that led the doctors to go, hey, we need to take a really serious look at this.
Well, what year did you start wrestling?
2002, maybe.
So that was still when people didn't even really take concussions seriously.
Yeah, you get your bell rung. You finish going with the match, and
so you could have theoretically had 15 concussions.
Hypothetically, I mean, I know when I have diagnosed ones, but again, I was on the indies for a long time. So,
which, to the WWE's credit, the stuff they've been doing with concussions,
absolutely,
pretty incredible.
Absolutely. I was talking to Joe before we came in here, and I said, I think I am and I could be wrong, I'm sure someone will tweet me if I am. I think I'm the first professional athlete, which we are, professional athletes, to be made to retire by his organization because of concussion issues.
So it wasn't like a doctor said you shouldn't do this. It wasn't you saying. It was WWE saying.
Well, no, it was a mutual thing.
Right.
You know, the doctors. I can't argue with the doctors. I can tell you how I feel. The doctors said one way. WWE trusts their doctors. We kind of all sat around and it was like, okay, hey, listen, this sucks, but we can't. They were looking out for me better than I was looking out for myself, basically, when it boils down to it.
Right, because if it's up to me or what, like, why would you worry about your own personal
safety?
Right.
I feel great. I wake up in the morning and I feel okay. What's wrong with me? But then, I don't know how to read a CAT scan or an MRI. Exactly. There might be some stuff going on there. Obviously, I don't think anyone was like, there was no conspiracy. There was nothing to, hey, we got to get rid of this guy. Let's tell him he has a concussion. Like, right. I was kind of doing really well at the time, so it wouldn't have made any sense. You know what I mean? But it was what it was. But luckily, I've transitioned.
How did you, when it was first, like, the talk was, okay, well, you're not going to wrestle anymore, did somebody say, we're going to find something for you, though, kid?
Literally how it happened was, it was on a Friday. It was an NXT taping. I want to say it might have been after a live special. It was definitely on a Friday. And they called me into a room. It was Hunter and one of our doctors and some of the people from Talent Relations, and they sat me down, and I kind of knew it was coming. Hunter hinted to me earlier in the week that expect the worst. He said, I don't have, but just kind of expect it. So they sat down and they told me, okay, listen, this is how it is. And it sucked. You know what I mean? My heart broke, period. That was the worst news I've ever had in my life. But they said, listen, we're not going to throw you out on the street. We know you got a family. We know that you've worked hard. You've produced for us. We're going to give you some time, basically a grace period, to kind of see if you fit in. So, and they said, we'll revisit it in a few months and kind of reevaluate things. So what I did was I took the weekend off and came back Monday morning. And I jumped into anything and everything I could get my hands on. Mm-hmm. I started working with the NXT live events, running music, doing things with the computer systems, and I have no sort of technical knowledge whatsoever.
How did you get there, like, mentally? Because for a transition to come that fast, it would seem like the first place for you to be would be like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore.
I think it was the way I sort of self-medicated with that, just keeping myself busy.
Right.
Just kind of. If I'm doing something, I'm not thinking about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So I jumped in with both feet to everything. I started doing commentary in the booth. Just literally
to do it.
I went to myself. I fancy myself a reasonably intelligent human being, but the only thing I've ever wanted to do and loved more than anything in the world was wrestling. And I'm here in WWE. I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by.
Plus, they've built this performance center now,
right,
where they literally have everything in it.
Exactly. And I remember saying to Hunter, then after the night of that meeting, we walked out and I pulled him aside and I said, I want to thank you for the opportunities to this point, but I'm not done here. And he looked at me and he kind of had like a half smirk and he said, I know you're not. And just kind of that was my way of saying, yeah, flat out, I'm going to figure something else out.
Were you worried that it wasn't going to happen? That
I was terrified.
Not going to find something for you?
I was terrified, but it wasn't. They made it clear it wasn't up to them to find something for me.
Yeah.
They were giving me the opportunity to figure out where I could fit in.
Just excel at something.
Yeah. And so, it could have been anything. And I started cutting promos as a manager. I started doing the commentary stuff. I was doing stuff at the Performance Center, helping Dusty Rhodes with promo class, helping the new guys with their promos.
So you were ready to even just be a promo trainer.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, even if it was like, I'm not on TV, I'm at the training center, it's a 9 to 5, whatever the hours are, job. Right. And I just help people with their promos.
Ultimately, this all boiled down to me having a family to take care of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I was worried about. But then I said, there's got to be something here for me. And I love the business, and I love all the different aspects of the business too. It's not as much as I love being in the ring. Mm-hmm. It's art. You know what I mean? And everyone can be creative and have their own thing. And there's so many different cool aspects of production. And a lot of this stuff is stuff I never knew until, I was taken out of the ring. So, but it was kind of, what can I figure out? What can I be good at?
Right.
And I tried literally everything I could. There was nothing I would say no to. I started, doing just a little appearances for going to schools on behalf of NXT and doing some public appearances and just little things just to see, to see where I fit in. And I built myself, I think, enough of a body of work over the 6 months or whatever that they finally took notice, and they decided to go with the announcer route, the commentary route.
Which is amazing because you don't look like an announcer. And it's been kind of a thing, I feel like, where WWE has, aside from Renee, has a look of what announcers look like, and they're sportscasters, and they wear a suit, and they just fit the mold. Like I've thought about becoming, trying to go over there and be an announcer, but I'm pretty sure they don't need somebody who looks like Sideshow Bob and Carlito Cool kind of mixed together. But you, was that something you were worried about? Like, you're like, I got this tattoo on my neck, I got my hands tattooed up, I don't care what suit you put me in, I'm gonna look like Cory Graves.
It's I thought about it. I wouldn't say I worried about it. I think that's always kind of been one of my appeals that I know in my personal life. I've always liked to get dressed up. Mm-hmm. I never got to really do it on TV because my wrestling gear, I got the punk kind of gear on, and but I've always been into fashion. It's just something I appreciate, and my wife loves it. She's like really huge into it. So I always thought it looked kind of cool when a dude has a really nice suit on, but you can see there's some tattoos.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like there's a little mystique to it, and I think it translates kind of well on camera. I've actually got a ton of really cool feedback with how it looks. And yeah, I broke the mold, man. Maybe we're moving into a place where you don't have to look like a 9-to-5 suit and tie guy to be an announcer.
Right. Yeah.
We're personalities,
And I think that's important, and I think that's been lost for a little while. Not so much with the pre-shows, I guess, because Riley's been there and Booker T's been there. But in terms of the announcers, that there isn't a ton, since Michael Cole's kind of heel run, which was fun, there isn't that much personality associated with the announcers.
I think there's a fine line you have to walk, because if an announcer has too much personality, it takes away from what's going on in the ring.
Right.
That said, there's a lot to be offered when you are an announcer with an opinion and a personality, and if you can back it up and make valid points, that's what I've always tried to do since I've started doing this. And this is actually advice I got from Cole. Cole said, "Listen, I want you to be yourself. I want you to be opinionated and be, kind of a smart." I was going to swear. I almost swore. No.
Ass?
Yes.
Okay, I said it for you.
Thank
that
you.
was not a WWE employee.
Right. Yeah, but be that guy. Be who I am. But if I am going to do it with facts. If I'm going to insult somebody, let me make sure I can make a valid point with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So as opposed to me just going, "Oh, I don't like this guy because he sucks."
Yeah.
Well, so what? That what does that tell me? But
Go
if
on
you say,
Twitter.
"I don't like this guy," yeah, exactly. I don't like this guy because of so and so, but you have a valid point to back it up. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't. Like I said, it's a fine line. You don't want to try to take attention away from what's going on in the ring. You want to enhance it,
right?
And if you can do that with personality, cool. But then some guys, just can't figure that out. And I'm still learning, man. I'm still new to this whole commentary thing. I've only been doing it in 2 months now.
It seems like you're into it, and it seems like a lot of people in your position, because you were wrestling for so long, you would kind of be like, well, I've achieved some level of expertise doing this. I'm going to come in with a chip on my shoulder doing that, because even though I haven't done commentary before, I know the wrestling business and blah, 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 but you strike me as kind of going in as a willing blank slate.
Yeah, and you kind of have to be, because as I've learned, commentary is not anything like you think it is.
Right.
I thought, like you said, I've been in this business long enough, I can commentate.
Right.
But then you start to learn and look at different things, and you realize there's some really terrible commentary.
They're all just doing bad Bobby the Brain Heenan
Right,
impressions.
right.
Yeah.
And guys are just trying to get themselves over,
right.
And they're taken away from the matches, and they're talking. And granted, I have a lot of learning to do, but that's kind of what's exciting to me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's been so long since I've had something just brand new to learn and focus on, that this is a new journey for me. You know what I mean? I'm getting a second lease on a career here, which is, I appreciate that, but it's exciting. It's fun. Like to be able to sit down and watch something and notice something I didn't notice before, or
right.
have things to work on or focus on. And it's awesome. I just have this, I shot the pre-show for the NXT, the next Takeover show, that like the hype show that'll air next week. I shot that yesterday for the first time. Just being in the studio and working with a new crew of guys, and it's a brand new start in on the same career. So it's pretty exciting for me.
Does that kind of block out any sort of I wish I was there? Like when you see either Kevin Owens join NXT, because in one point you could be saying, oh, I wish I was still here so I could work with him, or watch, Roman Reigns head towards the main event of WrestleMania, and you're like, now we're, we were kind of on the same career path, and now we're not. Does having this new kind of toy distract you from that, or is that kind of out of your system?
I don't know. I think it depends on the day.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation, because there's been times where, it still hurts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's my passion. My heart is forever kind of broken. You know what I mean? I think I've done a pretty good job of like duct taping them back together.
Right.
I think we're
like
okay.
a second wife.
Yeah. Right.
Like you're like, I really thought I loved that first one, but second one's cool.
Second one's
cool.
She's great.
Yeah.
No, but there's times when it gets to me is certain the live events, seeing just someone walk out of the curtain and just basically it's because of what NXT's grown into.
Yeah.
People know everybody.
Yeah.
When someone's music hits and the people, everyone, even if it's 300 people, stand up and they freak out. I never quite got to that point with just where the business, where NXT was at the time. I missed that a little bit, and yeah, would I love to headline WrestleMania with Roman Reigns? Absolutely. But
right.
when I'm busy doing something, whether it's commentary, if I'm doing commentary, I'm focused on making it the best commentary possible. So that does kind of distract me at the time. It's usually when I'm like sitting at home and I'm drinking a beer, watching TV, and I'm like, I see something and go, man, I should have done that, or that could be me, or so it's still there, but
you just kind of have to adapt that into, I want to call the main event.
Yeah, honestly, and that's kind of how I've helped cope with things. But yeah, I was going somewhere and I completely went off track there.
That's
I had
all
a
right.
point. This is like the third time this has happened today. I've been talking all day. Yeah, you want to be, you just want to be part of it, and
Right.
I got a different opportunity.
And I guess then that's when somebody like your dad has to come in and be like, yeah, you're not in the ring. You're sitting at the table next to the ring. Relax. Like, it's still pretty
you're
good.
You're still doing
like
pretty okay.
You're not watching on TV.
Right.
You're sitting there doing that.
Yeah.
You were in Philly for the Royal Rumble,
yes.
as was I. You were in the crowd, as was I, but you were in the crowd doing the pre-show.
I was behind that cool little velvet rope with Booker and Renee and
which
Byron.
The plebeians like us can't get there.
I nodded you out on the post show.
Right. Don't let anybody know that, though, because that rope is there for riffraff like me to not interact with superstars like the four of you. What did you think of the crowd? What did you think of the reaction Roman Reigns got? Winning? Did you see it coming?
I think I saw it coming just because I know Philly.
Yeah.
And I before I got to WWE, I spent a lot of time from Pittsburgh.
And you're from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and these guys boo Santa Claus.
Right.
So that wasn't surprising.
They throw batteries at football games.
Right. Yeah. I don't think anyone was shocked that he got booed. I think that the crazy thing was last year, that's all anyone wanted was for him to win the Royal Rumble, and everyone was mad when he didn't. So this year he does, and everyone's like, no, that's wrong, and that
you know
sucks.
what this means? Bad news for Rusev next year.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But then what was cool was you completed his heel turn on the radio show.
Yeah, which was great because he called the radio show, and it was on the radio show 3 days before the Royal Rumble. It was on the radio already. It was out there.
Right.
But that's the internet, though. I had to put it specifically on the internet.
Give it to them on a platter.
Like 5 days after it had happened.
Yeah.
And then it was like, we hate this guy. And I said, why? He's trying to support his family and make the fans happy.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. But did you feel for him? Were you like, this is cool? Were you like, these fans need to give him a break?
See, I know him well enough that I didn't feel bad for him because I knew he got it. And he was in there, and you couldn't have, pried the smile off of his face. He was in there doing it, and you know he's going, man, this he may not have expected it, but he's pro, man.
Right.
And he was in there going, I don't care who's what you're doing. Yeah, I would like for you to cheer for me.
Right.
He said I think he said when we went out that night, I've never been flipped off more in my entire life. He said everyone, but
he's sitting there on some level knowing, I just won the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I just won the Royal Rumble. I'm
the
going
Rock
to WrestleMania.
just came out to help me.
Yeah.
I'm going to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're going to send me a mean tweet, but like life's pretty okay right now.
Right.
Right. But that's probably, now I'm a heel because I agreed with what he said. That's basically all he said was like, man, my life's pretty all right.
It's pretty obvious to everybody. I'm coming in to start a heel faction, which involves you,
Good.
Roman Reigns.
That's it. Wait till next year and we'll have Rusev.
Yeah. Once he gets, which by the way, and we said this on the podcast with Katie last week. We went to Starbucks after the Royal Rumble,
Right.
but not right by the arena, like half an hour away from the arena. Rusev's just in there getting a coffee, but he still looks like Rusev. So I can't say that
he doesn't wear a mask, Sam.
But he's got a Rusev face.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Unapproachable.
Right.
Expression-wise.
All right.
He's still got a Rusev aura.
Okay, fair enough.
But because I can't say that he was staying in character, but everybody was talking about him like right next to him, but wouldn't
like he wasn't
him.
there.
They're like, oh, there's Rusev. I'm like, yeah, he heard you say that. I'm not gonna ask him.
I always like when you can always tell who the smart fans are at the NXT live events that don't like me, because someone inevitably will be. You just come in. I'll sit there and I'm running production. You know what I mean? I'm running music or doing whatever, and I'm kind of out with the people. And I'll have a lot of kids or fans come over and they'll sign stuff or say hey or whatever. Sure. And you'll always see 2 or 3 like college-age dudes, usually with beards and thick glasses.
Yeah.
And they're in the front row and they're wearing like Rusev shirts. And they're like looking back at me and they're whispering to each other. And they're staring at me and they're whispering. But then they like just look straight ahead and they don't acknowledge me. And it's like, dude, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't care. But
maybe they don't dislike you. Maybe they love you.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. There's a lot of people really dislike me on Twitter, and
why?
I don't know. I understand, like, yeah, I'll be the first to admit I wasn't the greatest in-ring dude of all time. So if you want to be like, oh, that guy sucked at wrestling, all right, cool. I mean, I
feel like people don't give you credit though as one of the indie guys though.
No, they don't.
So many famous indie guys that came on board.
I was always kind of under the radar.
Right.
Like, I did pretty much all the same things that a lot of those guys did, but I
didn't know of you until you popped up in NXT.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time down there, but hey, I'm not mad at it.
Right.
I've always just been curious. People are just like, Twitter's Twitter. I kind of become to appreciate it for what it is, but people are like, you suck in the ring, and I can't believe you have a job, and I'm like, well, dude, I'm sorry. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm not gonna stop doing it.
Yeah, like I mean, I apologize that you don't enjoy my stuff, but I got to pay my bills, and I'm having a great time.
You were talking about like having a punk rock gimmick and not wearing suits and stuff. When you were in NXT, that's when Punk was still on the main roster. Was there any part of you that was like, they already got this punk rock dude. He's already tatted up. Like, how am I going to differentiate myself from CM Punk?
Yeah, you'd be amazed. Back to Twitter, how often I get, oh, you're just a Punk ripoff.
And you're like, yeah, I went and sat in a tattoo chair for 150 hours because, you look like CM Punk.
Yeah, man. I that was always this big knock on me. Oh, he's just a second rate. And I get it, at first glance, you want to stand out. And I did remind people of something. So I can't say that necessarily hasn't ever worked against me. I mean, because he got to the company before I did.
Sure.
And he was, pretty successful when I first got signed. So, yeah. I don't think it was ever any like, no, we have Punk, we can't use Graves. If it did, whatever, there's nothing I can do about it.
Everything's worked out
the
now.
The irony is people like they try to make this they pit this fantasy rivalry like we hate each other because we're ripping each other off and who's more punk rock, and it's like, nah, man, it's all good, it's fine.
Yeah,
we're pals, it's fine.
Kind of cool with each other.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that I would think. I would think like back then Punk would be like, oh, he's probably got similar interests. Maybe we should hang out.
Yeah, and that's how I became friends with him on the indies, because we could actually hang out and not talk about wrestling. We talked about music and tattoos and ripping each other off.
Yeah. Hey, where'd you get those tights? Can I get kick pads like you? Oh my God. Well, who are you looking forward to seeing on this NXT special? Because the last one, and do you worry at all? You don't strike me as a guy. Every time I've asked you if you worry about something, you go, no, I'm not really worried about it. But like, is it sort of, do you question when does this run out? Like, oh, like everything NXT has put out, even the TV shows, people are like, oh, last week was better than the week before, and blah, 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 blah. Like, do you worry that you're going to screw up at all, this thing?
On a long enough timeline, anything's going to go into a slowdown period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People complain, oh, Raw sucked this week. But yeah, you know what? give it a month, and you're all of a sudden emotionally invested more so than you've ever been.
Yeah.
We don't have an off season. We don't have, even the best TV shows have an off season. The Walking Dead takes a few months off so they can recoup,
they do like 7 episodes and then take 6 months off.
And people aren't like, oh God, it's so, and people still complain, but we're doing this week in and week out, at least the main roster. NXT is still on every week. So eventually there's going to be a time that something's going to happen people don't like. For right now, we just kind of ride the wave.
Yeah.
It keeps growing. It doesn't seem like it's going to slow down anytime soon. I personally hope it doesn't. I'm having a great time. Everyone's having a great time. I think we're making some awesome work.
Are you looking forward to anything specific?
I want to see Finn Balor and Adrian Neville.
Yeah.
I think that's going to steal the show. I'm pretty sure they've never wrestled.
Wow. Yeah.
I think, and I could be making this up because I have a tendency to pull facts out of the air that I'm certain I got from somewhere, but I might have just dreamed them up. I think I asked Neville at the last set of NXT tapings because I was going to mention something about that. And I think because I asked him about Itami and Balor, and he'd wrestled Itami, but I don't think he'd ever wrestled Balor, ever, anywhere in the world, as well traveled as they've been, and they've been in the same sort of circles for a long time. I don't think so. But I think that's going to tear it down.
I feel like a lot of these matches are matches that people would wait for a long time. That NXT is kind of like almost rushing to get to now. Like they're the same thing with the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens match. Is that because you never know when they're going to get called up, so we better have this match now? Or
I think it's some of that, but I know just the scheduling's crazy because we shoot at Full Sail University, so we work around their schedule. We have the main roster TV, pay-per-views, all that sort of stuff in order to get all the production guys that we need down. That's like a scheduling. There's only certain windows we can actually shoot, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling you this, but I don't think this live special was supposed to happen this soon. I want to say it wasn't planned originally until like closer to WrestleMania.
It does seem very close to the last
But
one.
I know there's a lot of stuff happening, like with NXT going on the road, and we're going to the Arnold Classic and doing the kind of an Access sort of event there, and then Mania coming up, and then we're going to be doing Access out there. There's so much going on that in order to do it properly and have all our resources that we need, and I don't know, that may have been Full Sail's call, that may have been WWE's. I don't know that aspect of things, but whatever it was, they went, hey, we got this window. Let's do it. We're not going to say, oh, well, let's just wait a little too long, because by then people are going to go, oh, man, it's been 5 months. What the heck? No one's giving us what we want. So I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed with this.
Do you think there's any sort of differential between the fact that Triple H is running NXT, Vince McMahon is obviously running the whole deal, but when guys get called up to the main roster, do you think that, like something like the Ascension, for instance, super over in NXT, but they get up onto the main roster, and it's kind of like, I'm not quite sure about these guys right now.
The one thing that a lot of people seem to forget is that NXT, while it is a WWE brand, while we are on the WWE network, we're still kind of a niche. We have our own little corner of the WWE universe that is ours.
And I mean, how many people? How Full Sail holds what?
I want to say 600 or 800 people. It's not like it's not a big place,
and it's like it's like 400 of those are the guys who come to every single show.
Sure, and that atmosphere thankfully translates on TV, which is awesome. It's kind of like the old ECW arena where you just get pumped up because like you don't even know who these guys are, but the fans really like them, so I'm going to cheer for them. You know, what I mean? It comes through, which is really cool. But the NXT fan base has grown with us. Since we started shooting it at Full Sail, when we used to, give away some tickets because we just wanted some butts in the seats, and now we're selling out the next show as soon before the show that's happening is even over, and so the fans are so passionate about certain guys, and they don't like it. Conversely, if they hate something, they'll let you know. But the fans in Full Sail really make the product so much more spectacular. To use the Ascension, the Ascension, everyone in Full Sail loved those guys. You hear that guitar riff, man, at the beginning of their music, and that place would explode, and they had their "yah" chants and all this Full Sail centric sort of atmosphere. Now you go to take the Ascension to the main roster, and some people know who they are, sure, but the vast majority of the WWE universe has never seen these guys before. So while you have the internet guys and the guys that have watched NXT going, what the heck, why are they treating them like this? The most Joe viewer sitting at home on his couch with his kid watching the show has never seen these guys before. So you have to reintroduce them, and maybe Vince has more of a hand in it, or he has a different vision for it. So that there's there's definitely a bit of a disconnect for whatever reason. But Bray Wyatt came out of NXT. Bray Wyatt was doing the same thing in NXT he's doing up on the main roster. I mean, and some of us were worried. We thought,
really?
Man, they're gonna tone Bray way down, or they're not gonna let him be him. And he went up, and he's setting the world on fire. Yeah. So it's a case by case basis, but a lot of it's because of the fans.
Yeah, that Bray Wyatt thing too is just like an amazing. You talk about second chances.
Whew, man, I remember watching him in one of Dusty's classes cut the first Bray Wyatt promo, and he got done. And he had the lights dimmed. We dimmed the lights for him, and everyone just kind of looked at each other. And Dusty looked over at us, and we looked, and like no one knew what to say.
Right.
It was unreal. I mean, you don't ever make Dusty Rhodes speechless. Dusty's always got something to say.
No, you know that well.
Yeah. But when Bray started doing Bray Wyatt, man, it was like, whoa. There's a
That's it.
switch in his brain, man, that when he flips it, he is Bray Wyatt, and it's so much fun to watch.
He's one of the only guys I've interviewed that like has this ability to. He's not in character, but he's still Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
talking
what I'm saying.
to.
There's something you're not talking. Yeah, there's no Wyndham
right.
there.
I'm not talking to Wyndham. I'm talking to Bray. He's not Bray from TV, but he's Bray.
Yeah,
which is really interesting.
He's a unique cat, man.
Well, listen,
he's cool.
Thanks for hanging out, man.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Cory Graves. And when is the special on?
February 11th.
Okay.
Which, if you don't have the WWE Network, which I know, Sam, you do.
Day one.
But perhaps some ne'er-do-well listening to this podcast has not subscribed.
Which is like really, and I'll say it, this isn't coming from Cory Graves, a complete asshole move. Because I'm on the network.
Agreed.
Right. I'm on. So even if you don't even like any of the guests that I've had on, if you subscribe to this podcast, you know what? I'm just going to subscribe because I like Sam. I'm on the network, so subscribe to it.
There you go. So
that's me putting myself
that was
over,
great.
That was
very well done. But in the event that the NXT Takeover Live special on February 11th isn't enough, if Sam Roberts isn't enough, the network is free this month.
Yeah.
All of February. Free, including WWE Fastlane, the pay-per-view at the end of the month. So even
featuring the Cory Graves pre-show.
That's right. I will be on the pre-show panel for that.
Nice.
The Raw pre-show every Monday night.
Nice.
Which I'm still getting. I forget that. I don't forget that I'm doing it. I forget to talk about it
to plug it.
Still,
that's your gig now.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I am the host, co-host.
Right.
I'm the host. Who cares? I'm making the claim right now. I'm the host.
Scott Stanford's going to be on here next week turning heel.
That's true.
I'm the host.
He can be in our stable.
I don't care what the fans say. I'm here to get rich and be the host.
Scott Stanford is the best. He's so awesome. But yeah, so even if you're one of these fringe fans that just does nothing more than send nasty tweets and hate everything we do,
right?
Check it out because it's not going to cost you anything.
Right. It's free, and that way you can know what you hate.
But the thing is, generally speaking, if someone is passionate enough to send a nasty tweet, they also already care so much that they're like, God, all they want things. Yeah. They just want things to be good.
Right. And it's like, if it's not as good as it used to be, then just subscribe to the network and watch how it used to be. It's all there. It's all there.
We should take that to the marketing department. That's pretty good. We can run that up the ladder.
Right. I think it'll work. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Thanks for having me, man.